I think you need a hug, said the little girl to the young homeless woman at the church steps. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. On a cold winter day, when the wind was biting through the streets of the city, a young girl stood outside a church, her hands tucked tightly into her coat pockets. The bells of the church tolled softly in the background, adding to the quiet serenity of the moment. The girl was only 8 years old, but there was something in her that made her seem older, like she had already witnessed the hardships of life. Her name was Lily, and though she was small in stature, her heart was vast with kindness. She had grown up in a neighborhood where people were often too busy to notice each other, let alone offer a helping hand. But not Lily. She was different. She saw the world with open eyes, with a curiosity that led her to notice the things most others ignored. Today, as she stood outside the church, she noticed a woman sitting alone on the cold stone steps. The woman was wrapped in a threadbare coat, her face gaunt, her eyes vacant. She looked like someone who had given up on hope a long time ago. Without a second thought, Lily approached her, her small boots crunching in the snow with each step. The woman looked up at her, her expression unreadable. There was no judgment in her eyes, just an emptiness that seemed to mirror the coldness of the day. Lily hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say. But then, with the innocence only a child could possess, she spoke the words that would change both of their lives. I think you need a hug, Lily said, her voice soft but firm. The woman blinked, as if unsure whether to laugh or cry. She had never expected to hear such words from a child, especially not one like Lily, who appeared so small, so innocent. But there was something in Lily's eyes, a warmth that was impossible to ignore. The woman took a deep breath, and for a moment, everything seemed to stop. Lily stood there, waiting, her arms open, offering the only thing she could, love. The woman slowly stood up, her body stiff from the cold, and without a word, she stepped into Lily's embrace. The warmth of the hug was like a spark in the dark, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the woman felt a flicker of hope. It was a simple act, but in that moment, it was everything. Little did they both know, this moment would set off a chain of events that neither could have imagined. As they stood there, in the quiet of the church steps, two souls connected in a way that would change their lives forever. The cold wind still swept through the narrow streets, the faint hum of the city barely audible above the sounds of the distant church bells. Lily stood holding onto the woman, her small arms wrapped around her, offering a warmth that was more comforting than the blanket of snow that covered the ground beneath their feet. The woman, whose name was Sarah, remained stiff for a moment, unsure of what to do. But then, something inside her softened. She hadn't expected to feel this way. No one had touched her like this in so long. She closed her eyes for a brief second, savoring the warmth of the hug, before pulling away gently. Thank you, Sarah whispered, her voice low and hoarse. Lily smiled up at her, her bright eyes shining in the gray light. It's okay, Lily said simply. You're not alone. Sarah wiped at her eyes quickly, surprised by the unexpected kindness from someone so young. You shouldn't be out here, Lily continued, her voice full of concern. It's too cold. Do you have somewhere to go? Sarah paused, her eyes flicking away for a moment. She had no answer. She had been living on the streets for months now, ever since she lost her job and the little savings she had. The city seemed indifferent to her existence, and she had grown used to the loneliness that gnawed at her every day. But there was something about Lily, her innocence, her warmth, that made Sarah feel seen, for the first time in a long while. I don't really have anywhere, Sarah admitted, her voice trembling slightly. I've been trying to find work, but it's hard. She stopped, not knowing how to finish. Lily's face was a mix of confusion and concern. You shouldn't have to be out here by yourself, Lily said, more to herself than to Sarah. You can come with me. My grandma says that the church always helps people who need it. Sarah shook her head, feeling a mix of shame and surprise. You don't have to do that, she said quickly, her pride surfacing. You don't even know me. I don't need to know you to know that you need help. Lily said simply, her voice firm with a wisdom beyond her years. For a long moment, Sarah said nothing. She simply stared at the young girl, her heart heavy with a strange mix of emotions. Here she was, a woman who had lost almost everything, being offered help from a little girl who had nothing but love to give. Sarah felt something inside her crack, a small, fragile barrier that had built up over months of struggle and isolation. She looked at Lily, her expression softening. "Thank you," she whispered again, this time with more sincerity. Lily smiled, holding out her hand. "Come on, I'll walk you there. It's not far." And with that simple gesture, Lily took Sarah's hand, leading her to the church where warmth and comfort awaited them, and where a small act of kindness would begin to change the course of both their lives. The church doors creaked open as Lily led Sarah inside, the warmth from the building immediately enveloping them. The smell of freshly baked bread from the church kitchen filled the air, a comforting scent that made Sarah's stomach growl. She hadn't eaten in a while, and the offer of food was something she hadn't allowed herself to hope for in months. The church's community room was bustling with volunteers, but there was an unexpected quietness in the air. It was as if the walls themselves understood the need for calm, a refuge for those who walked through the doors. A kind woman with a gentle smile, probably in her late 60s, greeted them. "Hello, dear. It's good to see you," she said, her voice warm and inviting. Lily smiled up at the woman. "This is Sarah. She's new. Can she stay for dinner?" The woman's eyes softened as she nodded. "Of course, dear. Come on in, both of you. We've got plenty." As Sarah stepped further into the room, she hesitated. She wasn't used to being treated with such kindness. The idea of accepting help felt foreign to her, yet Lily's presence, her innocent concern, made it difficult to refuse. Sarah quietly took a seat at the table, her eyes darting around as people chatted with one another, some laughing, others quietly speaking in hushed tones. A small group of children played nearby, their laughter a bright contrast to the heaviness Sarah had carried with her for so long. Lily sat beside her, eagerly waiting for the meal to be served, her eyes shining with excitement. "This is my favorite time of the week," Lily said, her voice full of enthusiasm. "Grandma always makes the best food, and I like hearing everyone's stories. You'll see, Sarah. It's all about helping each other." Sarah nodded, though she wasn't sure how to feel. She had been so used to surviving on her own, fighting to stay afloat in a world that seemed to ignore her existence. This sudden outpouring of kindness left her feeling vulnerable, like she might crumble under the weight of it. But as Lily sat beside her, her small hand resting on Sarah's, something in Sarah's heart shifted. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she thought. The dinner arrived, a simple yet hearty meal of soup and bread, with a salad on the side. As they ate, the conversation flowed easily, with Lily eagerly recounting stories of her school and her friends, her voice light and carefree. Sarah listened, absorbing the warmth of the moment, though she still couldn't fully believe it. When the meal ended, the volunteers began to clean up, but Lily wasn't quite ready to leave. "I want to show you something," Lily said, tugging gently at Sarah's sleeve. Sarah followed her outside, where the night had begun to settle in. The stars twinkled above them as Lily led her to a small garden behind the church. "I love coming here," Lily said, her eyes bright in the moonlight. "This is where I come to think. It's peaceful." Sarah stood silently beside her, the quiet of the night settling around them. For the first time in a long time, she felt something other than fear or sadness. She felt hope. The weight of her past still hung heavy on her shoulders, but the simple act of kindness, the warmth of the meal, the safety of this place, began to melt the icy barriers she had built around herself. She looked down at Lily, who was smiling up at her, and for a brief moment, Sarah allowed herself to believe that things could change. She wasn't sure how or when, but something inside her was beginning to stir, a spark that had long been buried under the years of hardship. Maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to rebuild her life. And in that moment, standing in the peaceful garden with Lily by her side, Sarah realized that no matter how lost she had felt, there was always the possibility of something better, something brighter ahead. The days passed, and Sarah found herself returning to the church more often. At first, she came only because Lily had insisted, but soon she discovered something unexpected. she began to feel a sense of belonging. The volunteers, the warm meals, the quiet moments in the garden, everything started to feel like a new beginning. She had been so used to surviving on her own, shielding herself from the world. But now, with every passing day, she started to see things differently. She wasn't alone. She wasn't invisible. And it was all thanks to Lily's simple kindness. Sarah had never expected to feel this way. But now, with each new interaction, each shared smile, she realized how much she had been missing. One evening, as they sat together in the garden, Lily spoke up. "You should stay here," she said, looking up at Sarah with wide eyes. "I mean, it's really nice here, and Grandma says there's always room for more." Sarah chuckled softly, the sound foreign to her after so many months of silence. "I can't just stay here forever, Lily," she said, her voice a mix of tenderness and hesitation. "I have to find my own way." Lily tilted her head, her brows furrowing. "But you've already found a way here, haven't you?" The innocence in Lily's voice caught Sarah off guard. It was true. She had found a place of comfort, a place where she could be herself without fear of being judged. But Sarah couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that she needed to do more, that she had to get back on her feet, for herself. That night, after the volunteers had finished cleaning up and the church was quiet, Sarah found herself talking to one of the staff members, an older man named Paul. He had been with the church for years, and his kindness had been evident the moment Sarah walked through the doors. "Is there any way I can help out?" she asked hesitantly, unsure of what she was capable of. Paul smiled warmly at her, his eyes kind and understanding. "We can always use an extra hand. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but we can teach you if you're willing to learn." Sarah felt a sense of relief wash over her. It wasn't much, but it was a start. It was the first step toward rebuilding her life. Over the next few weeks, Sarah worked alongside Paul and the other volunteers, learning how to help organize meals, assist with the church's outreach programs, and even offer support to other people who, like her, had fallen on hard times. As Sarah's confidence grew, so did her sense of purpose. She wasn't just a guest in the church anymore. She was a part of the community. One day, after a long day of volunteering, Sarah sat on the church steps, the cool evening air brushing her face. Lily came running over, her face bright with excitement. "Guess what?" she said, practically bouncing with energy. "I told Grandma about you, and she says we might have a small apartment open up soon." Sarah blinked, surprised by the news. She had never considered it before, but the idea of having a place of her own, even a small one, felt like a dream she wasn't sure she was allowed to have. "You think I could?" she asked softly, not entirely believing the possibility. Lily nodded, her smile never wavering. "I know you can. You've come so far already. You're strong, Sarah." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes, but she quickly wiped them away. For the first time in a long while, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. It wasn't just the apartment or the opportunity to start fresh. It was the realization that she could do this. She could rebuild her life, step by step, with the support of those around her. The following weeks were a whirlwind of preparations. The apartment wasn't much, but it was hers. It had a small kitchen, a cozy living room, and just enough space for Sarah to breathe again. When she moved in, Lily came by to help her unpack. As they placed the last few items on the shelves, Sarah turned to Lily, her heart full of gratitude. "Thank you," Sarah whispered. "You've done so much for me." Lily smiled up at her, her eyes shining with the same innocence and kindness that had started this entire journey. "I just wanted to help," she said simply. And in that moment, Sarah realized that sometimes the simplest gestures, like a hug from a stranger, could change everything. Sarah's new apartment was small, but it was hers, and that was all that mattered. She spent her first few days organizing the space, placing a few of her belongings on the shelves, trying to make it feel like home. It wasn't much, a couple of thrifted chairs, a second-hand table, a mattress on the floor, but it was a start. For the first time in months, Sarah felt a sense of peace. As the days passed, she became more involved in the church community. Lily, who had quickly become her closest friend, continued to visit regularly. The two of them would sit together on the church steps, talking about everything and nothing at all. Lily would tell Sarah about her day at school, the friends she had made, and how much she loved helping out with the church's food drives. Sarah, in return, would listen intently, offering advice when she could, though she wasn't sure if she had much wisdom to share. One afternoon, while the two of them were sitting in the garden, Lily turned to Sarah with a serious look on her face. "Sarah," Lily said quietly, "I've been thinking. You've done so much for everyone else here, but have you thought about what you want to do? I mean, what do you really want in life?" Sarah blinked, taken aback by the question. It was the first time someone had asked her that. For so long, all she had focused on was surviving, getting through the day, finding enough to eat, staying safe. She hadn't thought about her future, about what she wanted beyond the small apartment and the community she had found. "I don't know," Sarah admitted after a long pause. "I've never really had a chance to think about it. Life's just been hard, you know? Every time I thought about the future, it always seemed out of reach." Lily smiled gently, a look of understanding in her eyes. "I get that. But you've made it this far, Sarah. You've already started building something. Maybe it's time to think bigger." The words settled in Sarah's mind, and for the first time in a long time, she began to dream. She thought about the art she had loved as a child, the sketches, the paintings, the way creating something beautiful made her feel alive. She thought about how much she missed that feeling, how it had been buried under the weight of all her struggles. Maybe it wasn't too late to start again, to chase after something she had always loved. The next morning, Sarah made a decision. She signed up for an art class at the local community center. It was a small step, but it was a step in the right direction. Over the next few weeks, she dedicated herself to learning again, rediscovering her passion for painting. At first, it was difficult. Her hands felt awkward as they held the brush, and the colors seemed to blur into one another. But with each passing day, she grew more confident. The strokes became more deliberate, the colors more vibrant. And with each painting, she felt more of herself returning. One evening, after a particularly long day of painting, Sarah sat back and looked at her latest piece, an abstract portrait of a woman standing in the rain. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was hers. A few days later, Lily came by to visit, as she always did. She paused at the door, her eyes wide with surprise as she took in Sarah's art. "Wow, Sarah," Lily said, her voice full of admiration. "This is amazing. You've got real talent." Sarah felt a flush of warmth spread across her face. She wasn't used to compliments, especially not about something so personal. But the pride in Lily's voice made her heart swell. "Thank you," Sarah said softly. I think I found something I love again." Lily smiled brightly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I knew you could do it. You've come so far, Sarah. I'm so proud of you." And in that moment, Sarah realized that this wasn't just about art or painting. It was about rediscovering who she was. It was about reclaiming the parts of herself that had been lost to the hardships of life. And with Lily by her side, she knew that no matter what, she could keep moving forward, one brushstroke at a time. The weeks flew by, and with each passing day, Sarah grew more confident in herself. Her art was becoming a reflection of her journey, of the struggles she had faced, and the strength she had found within herself. Lily continued to visit her apartment regularly, and with each visit, she noticed how much Sarah had changed. The woman who had once been lost and broken was now becoming someone strong, someone with purpose. One sunny afternoon, as Sarah worked on a new piece of art, she heard a knock on her door. She opened it to find Lily standing there, holding a small envelope. "I have something for you," Lily said with a mischievous smile. "A surprise." Sarah raised an eyebrow, taking the envelope from her. She opened it slowly and found a flyer for an art exhibition at a local gallery. "They're holding an art show next month," Lily explained, "and they're accepting submissions. I thought you should apply." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She had never considered showing her work in public, let alone in a gallery. The thought of exposing her art to others felt terrifying. What if no one liked it? What if it wasn't good enough? But then she remembered the progress she had made, the way her hands now moved confidently over the canvas. She had come so far. Maybe this was the opportunity she needed to take her art, and herself, to the next level. "I don't know," Sarah said, feeling a bit uncertain. "I've never done anything like this before." Lily's smile widened. "I know, but you're ready. You've been working so hard, and your art is amazing. This is your chance to show the world what you can do." Sarah hesitated for a moment, her mind racing with doubts. But then she thought of the girl she had once been, the girl who had given up on her dreams, who had believed she wasn't worthy of anything good. That girl was gone now, replaced by someone who had fought through the darkness to find the light. With a deep breath, Sarah smiled back at Lily. "Okay," she said, her voice steady. "I'll do it." Over the next few weeks, Sarah worked tirelessly, perfecting her pieces and preparing for the exhibition. Each brushstroke was a step forward, a symbol of how far she had come. She felt nervous and excited all at once, but most of all, she felt proud. This was her chance to show the world what she was capable of. The day of the exhibition arrived, and Sarah walked into the gallery with her heart pounding in her chest. The walls were lined with beautiful works of art, each one telling its own story. As Sarah approached her own paintings, she took a moment to admire them, to see them not as the result of her struggles, but as the manifestation of her strength. She had poured her soul into each one, and now they were on display for everyone to see. As the evening went on, people gathered around her pieces, admiring the vivid colors and the emotions they conveyed. Sarah found herself talking to visitors, explaining the inspiration behind her art and the journey she had taken to get to this point. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly seen. At the end of the night, a man approached her. He was in his 50s, dressed in a sharp suit, and had an air of authority about him. "These are extraordinary," he said, gesturing to her work. "You have a real talent." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Thank you," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I never thought I would be here." The man smiled warmly. "I'm the director of a local art center, and we're always looking for new talent. I'd love to offer you a chance to showcase your work in one of our upcoming exhibitions." Sarah felt her knees weaken. This was the opportunity she had dreamed of, the recognition she had never thought possible. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes," he said with a reassuring smile. "This is your moment." And in that moment, Sarah realized how far she had come. She had gone from feeling lost and hopeless to standing in front of a room full of people who saw her for who she truly was, a woman with talent, with passion, and with a future full of possibilities. As the night ended and she packed up her things, Sarah looked around the gallery one last time. She had done it. She had faced her fears, embraced her dreams, and found her place in the world. And she knew, no matter what came next, she would continue to grow, to create, and to believe in herself. After the exhibition, Sarah's life seemed to be shifting into a new rhythm, one she hadn't known she was capable of. The Arts Center had invited her to showcase more of her work, and she felt an excitement stirring deep inside her, one that had been dormant for so long. But despite the growing sense of accomplishment, something lingered in the back of her mind, a feeling she couldn't shake. She hadn't heard from her old friends in months, the ones from before everything had changed. It wasn't that they had turned their backs on her, but her life had been so different from theirs for so long. And in some ways, it still felt like there was an invisible gap between them. One evening, as she was finishing a piece for the upcoming show, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, surprised to see a message from an old friend, Kayla, someone Sarah had known before the struggles had taken over her life. "Hey Sarah, I've been meaning to reach out. How are you doing?" The message was simple, yet it stirred up a swirl of emotions in Sarah. She hadn't heard from Kayla in ages. The last time they spoke, Sarah had been deep in her battles, struggling to make ends meet, feeling lost in the world. "I'm doing well," Sarah typed back, a smile creeping onto her face. "I've been working on some new art. How about you?" Kayla's response came quickly. "I'm so glad to hear that. I've been thinking about you. Maybe we can meet up soon." Sarah stared at the screen, unsure of what to say. Part of her wanted to reconnect, to show Kayla the person she had become. But another part of her worried. What if things had changed too much? What if the distance between them had grown too wide? But Sarah knew, deep down, that the only way to bridge that gap was to take the step herself. So she replied, "I'd like that. How about coffee tomorrow?" The next day, Sarah met Kayla at a small cafe, one they used to visit together. As soon as Kayla walked in, her face lit up, and Sarah couldn't help but feel a warmth spread through her chest. It was strange to be sitting across from Kayla again, after so long, but there was something comforting about it. The conversation started easy, with Kayla asking about Sarah's art. Sarah told her everything. The exhibitions, the opportunity to work with the Art Center, and how much she had learned about herself in the process. Kayla listened, her eyes full of admiration. "I can't believe how much you've done," she said, her voice filled with awe. You've really turned your life around, Sarah. Sarah smiled, feeling a rush of gratitude. I've had help, she said softly, thinking of Lily, the church, and the people who had supported her when she felt like giving up. I couldn't have done it alone. Kayla nodded, her expression serious. I'm really proud of you, she said. But I've noticed something else too. You're not just an artist now, Sarah. You're someone who's found a way to give back. You're not just living, you're living with purpose. Sarah looked at her, surprised by the depth of Kayla's observation. It wasn't something Sarah had explicitly thought about before. She had been so focused on surviving, on making it through each day, that she hadn't fully realized how much she had changed. She had learned to live with purpose, to find meaning not just in art, but in the way she lived her life and the way she connected with others. I think you're right, Sarah said slowly. I found something in myself I didn't know was there. And it's because of everything I've gone through. Kayla smiled, her eyes soft with understanding. You've always had it in you, Sarah. You just needed to believe in it. Sarah sat back in her chair, the words sinking in. She had believed in herself again, and it had made all the difference. She had found her way back to who she was meant to be. As the conversation continued, Sarah realized that reconnecting with Kayla was more than just a moment of nostalgia. It was a reminder that the past, no matter how far behind, was never truly gone. It was a part of who she was now, and it shaped the future she was building. And with that thought, Sarah felt more grounded, more confident than ever before, ready to continue embracing the life she was creating, one filled with purpose, art, and the warmth of those who cared about her. A few months passed, and Sarah's life began to feel like a series of firsts. First, she had found a sense of purpose through her art. Then, she had reconnected with Kayla, rekindling a friendship that once seemed lost. Now, another first was on the horizon, the opportunity to showcase her art at a major gallery event. It was the culmination of everything she had worked for, a moment where her past struggles would finally be met with recognition. As the day of the exhibition approached, Sarah felt the familiar nerves creeping in. This was the kind of moment she had only dreamed of when she was still on the streets, unsure of where her next meal would come from, let alone thinking about showing her art to the world. But now, standing on the brink of it, she couldn't help but feel the weight of the journey she had taken to get here. She stood in front of her canvas, the brush poised in her hand. The piece she was working on would be the centerpiece of the exhibit, a vivid portrayal of a woman standing in the rain, holding on to hope despite the storm. It was a reflection of her own journey, a story of resilience, of finding light in the darkest of times. As she added the final strokes, Sarah took a deep breath. She was ready. The night of the exhibition arrived, and the gallery was bustling with energy. People from all over the city were gathered, admiring the art displayed on the walls. The air was thick with the buzz of conversation, the sound of glasses clinking, and the soft hum of music in the background. Sarah stood near her painting, her heart racing. She had never been one for attention, but tonight, she had to face her fears. As guests approached her piece, Sarah found herself talking to people about her work, sharing her story and the meaning behind the piece. Some were curious about the inspiration, others admired the bold colors and emotions that seemed to leap off the canvas. For the first time, Sarah didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like she belonged. She was part of this world now. A few hours into the event, Sarah was approached by the gallery director, a middle-aged man with a calm demeanor and an air of authority. "Sarah, your work is extraordinary," he said, his voice sincere. "We've had a lot of positive feedback about your painting. It's raw, it's real, and it's something special." Sarah felt her stomach flutter. She wasn't sure if she had ever been complimented this much before, especially about something so personal. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It means a lot to hear that." The director smiled warmly. "I think you're destined for even greater things. We'd love to showcase more of your work in the future, maybe even have a solo show." Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief. A solo show? It was something she had never dared to dream about. She had always been afraid that her past, her struggles, would define her, that no one would take her seriously. But here, tonight, she was being recognized for her talent. It was a validation she hadn't known she needed. The director handed her his business card. "Let's keep in touch," he said. "I see a lot of potential in you, Sarah. This is just the beginning." As the night wore on, Sarah found herself standing alone in front of her painting, taking it all in. The crowd, the compliments, the excitement, it was all surreal. She had done it. She had stepped out of the shadows of her past and into the light of her future. For the first time in a long time, Sarah allowed herself to believe that anything was possible. And just as she was about to leave, Lily appeared, a wide smile on her face. "You did it, Sarah," Lily exclaimed, hugging her tightly. "I'm so proud of you." Sarah smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lily. You were the one who believed in me when I didn't." Lily looked up at her with shining eyes. "You did all the hard work. You're amazing, Sarah." And in that moment, as Sarah stood with Lily by her side, she realized that this wasn't just about the art, or the exhibition, or even the recognition. It was about the journey she had taken to get here. Finding herself, rediscovering her worth, and knowing that she was enough, just as she was. The months following the exhibition passed in a blur of new opportunities and growth for Sarah. Her art was displayed in more galleries, and she was steadily gaining recognition within the local art community. It was everything she had dreamed of but never thought was possible. With each new show, each compliment, and each new connection, Sarah felt more and more like the person she was always meant to be. However, as her success grew, so did her sense of responsibility. Sarah knew she had come a long way, but she also realized that she could never forget where she came from. She couldn't forget the people who had helped her, the church, and most importantly, Lily, who had always believed in her when no one else did. One sunny afternoon, as Sarah worked on a new piece of art at her studio, she received a call that would change everything. It was from the director of the art center, the same man who had first recognized her talent at the exhibition. "Sarah," he said, his voice warm, "we've had such a positive response to your work. We want to take it to the next level. How would you feel about collaborating with us for a national tour? We'd showcase your work in major cities across the country." Sarah's heart raced. A national tour? It felt like a dream. She had always imagined being a part of something bigger, but never in a million years did she think it would happen so soon. She thought of the struggles, the loneliness, and the pain she had endured to get here. She thought of the moments when she felt like giving up, when she didn't believe in herself. But now, here she was, with an opportunity that many artists only dreamed of. I don't know what to say," Sarah stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Say yes," the director replied gently. "This is your moment. Your art deserves to be seen." Sarah smiled softly, the weight of everything she had accomplished and the person she had become filling her with pride. "Yes," she said, her voice steady now. "I'll do it." Over the next few months, Sarah worked tirelessly on her pieces for the tour. It was a whirlwind of interviews, meetings, and preparations. But with every challenge, Sarah found herself more driven, more passionate about her art. She was not the same woman who had once walked the streets, unsure of where she would sleep at night. She had found her purpose, her calling. The day the tour began, Sarah stood in front of her first exhibition at a renowned gallery in New York City. The room was filled with people, artists, critics, and admirers. She felt a surge of emotions, but most of all, she felt gratitude. Gratitude for every step she had taken, for every person who had supported her, and for the strength she had discovered within herself. As the night went on, Sarah found herself standing at the back of the gallery, watching as people admired her work. She felt a tap on her shoulder and turned to find Lily standing beside her, her eyes full of pride. "You did it, Sarah," Lily said, her voice full of emotion. "You made it." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with love for the little girl who had started it all. "We did it," Sarah corrected gently. "We all did." And in that moment, as Sarah looked around the room at the people who had helped her, supported her, and believed in her, she knew that this was just the beginning. She had come a long way, but she was ready for whatever came next. With her art, her strength, and the love of those around her, Sarah knew she could face anything. As the night ended and the gallery emptied, Sarah took a deep breath, looking out at the city skyline. This was her moment. Her story was just beginning. If you're fascinated by inspiring millionaire stories, this is one journey you won't want to miss. Follow the incredible transformation of a woman who once struggled on the streets, but found her path to success through art and personal resilience. From being homeless to showcasing her artwork at galleries, her journey is a testament to the power of self-belief and kindness. In this millionaire story, a young girl's act of compassion sets the stage for an extraordinary change. Along the way, Sarah discovers the support of a community and the strength within herself to rebuild her life. This story is more than just a tale of overcoming adversity. It's a reminder that no matter where you start, you can always rise above and make your dreams a reality. Discover how the kindness of others and the courage to pursue one's passion can lead to unimaginable success in this heartwarming tale. If you're looking for true millionaire stories that inspire and motivate, this one will surely leave you in awe. Sarah's story proves that anyone, no matter their past, can rewrite their future and achieve greatness. It's not just about the destination. It's about the journey and the people who help along the way. Join Sarah on her incredible path to success in this unforgettable millionaire story.